The Galactic Council chambers had never witnessed such terror.
Ambassador ZYX-Theros' tentacles trembled violently as she transmitted the emergency broadcast across 17 star systems. Her species, the Velthari, had evolved on a world where fear was an unknown emotion, yet today she experienced pure, primal dread. Emergency protocols are now in effect, her voice crackled through the quantum communicators.
All vessels are to maintain maximum distance from the Sol system.
Under no circumstances should any being approach the third planet. The warning had come too late for the Chromok mining fleet. Their 12 massive harvesters had detected rich deposits of rare minerals in Earth's asteroid belt. The Chromok were known throughout the galaxy as fearless warriors who had conquered 43 star systems.
Their exoskeletons could withstand plasma fire, and their battle claws could tear through reinforced hull plating. Nothing in the known universe had ever made them retreat. Captain Throck Nal had laughed when the first human transmission reached their ships.
The primitive bipedal creatures claimed ownership of their entire solar system, demanding immediate withdrawal of all alien vessels. The translation algorithms struggled with concepts like jurisdiction and sovereignty, ideas that seemed foreign to most galactic civilizations. They possess no spacefaring technology beyond chemical rockets, Throck Nal had reported to his commanders. Their largest vessels barely reached their own moon. We shall proceed with mining operations.
The humans' response came swiftly.
Instead of the expected surrender or negotiation, Earth's surface lit up with thousands of brilliant flashes.
Long-range sensors detected massive electromagnetic pulses racing outward from the planet's surface.
The Chromok assumed these were primitive nuclear weapons being tested in desperation.
They were catastrophically wrong.
The first indication of humanity's true nature came when their primitive chemical rockets began intercepting Chromok harvesters traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The mathematical impossibility of such precise targeting suggested technology far beyond anything in human civilization's apparent capabilities. Advanced alien computers calculated trajectory paths and found no possible way for the slow human vessels to reach their targets.
Yet somehow, they did. Communications Officer Grixtal intercepted human military transmissions during the engagement. The universal translators worked overtime processing concepts that challenged galactic understanding of warfare.
Humans spoke of acceptable losses, Pyrrhic victories, and necessary sacrifices with casual indifference that chilled even hardened Chromok warriors. Sir, Grixtal's mandibles clicked nervously, the humans are launching attacks they cannot survive.
Captain Throck Nal studied the tactical displays in bewildered horror. Human pilots were deliberately ramming their fragile spacecraft into Chromok vessels hundreds of times their size. The impacts caused minimal damage to the alien ships, but the humans kept coming. Wave after wave of these suicide attacks continued until Chromok gunners began hesitating, disturbed by the relentless self-destruction they witnessed. The breakthrough came when young engineer ZepHYR analyzed the human attack patterns. While reviewing combat footage, she discovered something that made her scales turn pale with realization. The seemingly random suicide runs weren't random at all. Each impact occurred at precisely calculated points that, individually, caused insignificant damage. Collectively, they created cascading structural failures throughout the massive harvesters. They're not attacking blindly, she whispered to Captain Throck Nal. They're performing surgical strikes.
Each human pilot knows exactly where to hit and accepts their death as part of a larger strategy. The implications terrified the Chromok more than any weapon could. These humans possessed engineering knowledge sophisticated enough to analyze alien technology in real time and tactical thinking so advanced they could coordinate complex multi-stage attacks using nothing but primitive rockets and raw determination. But the true horror revealed itself during the final assault on Harvester 7. The massive ship's shields failed after 37 human impacts. As Chromok crew prepared for boarding actions, expecting desperate hand-to-hand combat, they instead watched the humans' next move through their surveillance systems. Rather than board the ship, the humans attached strange devices to the hull breach points.
Long-range scanners identified the objects as crude nuclear warheads with manual detonation systems.
Inside the alien vessel, Chromok warriors realized with growing dread that humans weren't trying to capture their technology or take prisoners.
They were going to destroy everything. The nuclear explosions gutted Harvester 7 from within. As radiation alarms shrieked throughout the Chromoc fleet, Captain Thrakinael received a transmission from the human military command. The message was brief and delivered in perfectly calm tones that contradicted its terrifying content.
This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Command. Your vessels have exactly 1 standard hour to clear our solar system. Any ship remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile and eliminated. We have identified your home system coordinates. Continued aggression will result in reciprocal action against your civilian populations. The transmission ended before Thrakinael could respond. His communications officers frantically tried to re-establish contact, hoping to negotiate or at least understand how humans had acquired knowledge of classified Chromoc military intelligence. Their homeworld's location was protected by 17 layers of quantum encryption and had never been discovered by enemy forces. Somehow, the humans knew exactly where to find them. Scanner readings from Earth showed massive construction projects beginning across the planet's surface. Thousands of facilities were being erected simultaneously, their purpose unknown but their scale massive enough to be detected from interstellar distances. The humans weren't just defending their world, they were preparing for war. Strategic advisor KLYX Nor approached Captain Thrakinael with trembling claws. His combat veteran's instincts screamed warnings as he processed reconnaissance data from Earth's activities. Sir, recommend immediate withdrawal. These beings are not what they appear. Explain, Thrakinael commanded, though his own certainty was cracking. Their willingness to die is tactical, not emotional. They sacrifice lives the way we expend ammunition. Each death serves a calculated purpose toward achieving strategic objectives. I've never encountered such systematized brutality. The final straw came when human interceptors began targeting Chromoc escape pods. The galaxy's warfare conventions universally protected evacuation vessels, considering attacks on retreating crews to be barbaric beyond comprehension. The humans showed no such restraint. They hunted down every fleeing Chromoc with methodical precision. They're not taking prisoners, reported Tactical Officer Nix Hara. Every escape pod is being destroyed. They're committing total annihilation. Captain Thrakinael stared at the tactical displays showing his fleet's destruction. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy like humanity. Other species fought for resources, territory, or survival. Humans fought for principles so abstract that Galactic Council databases had no translation protocols for concepts like freedom and independence. As the last harvester exploded under human assault, Thrakinael activated emergency retreat protocols. The surviving Chromoc vessels engaged their fastest hyperdrive systems and fled toward their home territories. Behind them, Earth's defensive installations continued growing at impossible speeds. The evacuation reports reached Galactic Council headquarters within days. Ambassador ZYX had initially dismissed them as combat stress-induced hallucinations. Experienced Chromoc warriors didn't flee from primitive civilizations. The very concept challenged everything known about galactic power structures. But, as more reports arrived from other species who had encountered humanity, a terrifying pattern emerged. The peaceful Eldari had attempted to establish scientific exchange programs with Earth, only to discover that human research focused entirely on weapons development and military applications. Trade negotiations with the merchant guild Kextari had collapsed when humans demanded detailed information about galactic shipping routes and defense installations rather than discussing commercial opportunities. Every species that approached Earth reported the same disturbing conclusion: humanity was preparing for conquest. Dr. Velnara, the Council's leading xenopsychologist, presented her analysis to the emergency session. Their behavior suggests a species that views all other life forms as either resources to be exploited or threats to be eliminated. They show no interest in peaceful coexistence or mutual benefit. How is that possible? Asked Council Chairman Mordek. Aggressive species typically destroy themselves before achieving spaceflight. Not if their aggression is perfectly controlled, Dr. Velnara replied. Humans don't fight emotionally. They wage war with scientific precision. Every action serves strategic objectives determined by long-term planning that spans generations. The revelation chilled the assembled delegates. Emotional aggression could be managed through diplomacy and compromise. Calculated, systematic warfare represented something far more dangerous, a species that approached violence as simply another tool for achieving goals. Emergency protocols locked down all hyperspace routes leading toward the Sol system. Military patrols received strict orders to avoid any contact with human vessels. The galaxy's greatest civilizations, species that had conquered entire star clusters and built empires spanning thousands of worlds, united in their decision to quarantine a single planet populated by beings who had never traveled beyond their own moon. As the council session concluded, long-range sensors detected energy signatures unlike anything in known physics emanating from Earth. The humans were building something. Whatever it was would be completed soon, and the galaxy trembled at the possibilities. 20 standard galactic years had passed since the Sol quarantine began. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace, with human space marked as forbidden territory on all navigational charts. Trade routes avoided the entire sector, and military patrols maintained careful distances from the boundaries of what had become known as the Terror Zone. Captain Jack Thor of the Valtheri exploration vessel Serenity's call should never have been in that region of space. His ship carried scientific equipment for studying stellar phenomena, not weapons systems or military shields. When his navigation computer malfunctioned during a routine hyperspace jump, he found himself drifting helplessly at the edge of the Sol system. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Long-range sensors detected no energy signatures from Earth. No communications traffic crossed the electromagnetic spectrum. No ships moved through local space. After decades of fearful monitoring, the galaxy's most terrifying civilization had simply vanished. "Sir," reported Science Officer Mixanda, her voice trembling with confusion, "I'm reading massive gravitational distortions throughout the inner system. Something catastrophic has occurred here." Captain Jack Thor authorized a cautious approach. His crew's scientific training overcame their cultural fear of humanity as they gathered data that would revolutionize galactic understanding of physics. The third planet's orbit had shifted dramatically. What remained of Earth hung in space as a shattered collection of massive fragments, slowly separating as gravitational forces pulled them apart. "Impossible," whispered Engineer Tekvar. "No known weapon could destroy an entire planet. The energy requirements would exceed the output of multiple stars." But the evidence surrounded them. Debris fields stretched across millions of kilometers, containing fragments of human cities, technological installations, and something else that chilled the Valtheri crew to their cores. Mixed among the planetary rubble were pieces of massive structures unlike anything in galactic databases. Dr. Lyx Nora, the expedition's xenoarchaeologist, studied the recovered fragments with growing alarm. "These aren't human constructions," she announced during the crew briefing. "The alloy compositions and engineering principles are completely unknown. This technology is far more advanced than anything humans were believed to possess." "Could they have been building alliance with another species?" asked Navigation Officer Kickstall. "No," Dr. Lyx Nora's tentacles curled with anxiety. "These fragments show battle damage. Severe combat stress indicators suggest prolonged warfare. Earth wasn't destroyed by a single catastrophic event. It was a battlefield." The implications terrified the crew more than humanity's reputation ever had. If humans hadn't destroyed themselves in civil war, something else had fought them on their home territory. Something powerful enough to shatter an entire planet during the conflict. Captain Jack Thor transmitted their findings to Galactic Council headquarters using emergency protocols. The response came faster than ever before recorded. Within hours, Council Chairman Mordek himself appeared via quantum communication link, surrounded by military advisors and xenobiology experts. "Captain, you will withdraw immediately," Mordek commanded. "Quarantine protocols remain in effect." "Sir, with respect, the quarantine purpose has become irrelevant," Captain Jack Thor replied. "Humanity appears to have been exterminated. We should investigate what happened to prevent similar threats to our own civilizations." The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute. Finally, Dr. Velnara spoke from behind Chairman Mordek. "Captain, show us the technological fragments you recovered." When the analysis results appeared on the council's screens, several delegates immediately activated emergency evacuation procedures for their home systems. The unknown technology fragments contained elements that violated fundamental laws of physics.
Molecular structures that couldn't exist according to galactic science somehow maintained perfect stability.
Energy residues suggested weapons systems capable of sterilizing entire star systems.
Where did this technology originate? Asked Defense Coordinator Thaxnell. Captain Jacksthor consulted his science team's preliminary reports. Unknown. What we've found represents advances centuries beyond our current understanding.
However, there's something else you need to know about the battle damage patterns.
He transmitted detailed scans of the destroyed human installations. Military analysts studied the data with growing confusion and dread. The damage wasn't consistent with any known weapon effects.
Instead of clean destruction or explosive force patterns, human structures showed signs of being systematically dismantled at the molecular level.
This suggests nanotechnology warfare, reported Chief Analyst BYX Hura. Something was converting human materials into different substances, probably to fuel its own reproduction cycles.
The revelation sent shock waves through the council chambers.
Self-replicating nanotechnology was considered the ultimate forbidden science throughout the galaxy. Every major civilization had banned research into such systems after theoretical models showed they could consume entire star systems if they malfunctioned.
Captain, Chairman Mordecai's voice carried new urgency. Expand your investigation. We need to understand exactly what happened in that system. The Serenity's call spent weeks mapping the debris fields and analyzing recovered materials.
What they discovered rewrote galactic understanding of both humanity and the universe itself.
Hidden within the asteroid belt, they found the remnants of massive construction facilities. The scale of human engineering projects dwarfed anything previously detected. Sir, reported Engineer Tekvar during one of the daily briefings, the humans had built industrial complexes large enough to be classified as artificial moons. These facilities were manufacturing something on an impossible scale.
What kind of products? Asked Captain Jacksthor. Military hardware. Ship components. Weapons systems.
But also terraforming equipment, life support technologies, and what appears to be colonization supplies for millions of people. The discovery painted a chilling picture.
Humanity hadn't been preparing to defend Earth.
They had been building the infrastructure necessary to expand across the galaxy. Their industrial capacity had grown to levels that could support interstellar civilization building projects. But something had attacked them before they could complete their expansion. The breakthrough came when Dr. Lyx Nora analyzed fragments from what appeared to be a human command center. Buried in the wreckage, she found data storage systems that had somehow survived the planet's destruction. The information they contained would haunt galactic civilization for generations. Human military records detailed first contact with the entities that had destroyed their world. The files referred to them simply as the Devourers, machine intelligences from outside the galaxy that consumed all organic matter to fuel their endless expansion.
Earth's long-range detection systems had identified their approach decades before the invasion began.
The humans knew they were going to die, Dr. Lyx Nora announced to the assembled council via emergency transmission. These records show they spent 40 years preparing for a war they knew they couldn't win.
Then, why fight at all? Asked Defense Coordinator Thaxnell. Why not flee or attempt negotiation?
Captain Jacksthor transmitted the most disturbing file from the human archives. It contained tactical assessments of Devourer capabilities and strategic projections for their likely expansion routes after consuming Earth's solar system. The humans had identified every major galactic civilization as targets for eventual consumption. They fought to buy time for the rest of us, he announced quietly. Human strategic planning indicated that a successful defense of Earth would delay Devourer expansion by approximately 200 galactic standard years. They sacrificed their entire species to protect civilizations they had never met.
The silence in the council chambers stretched endlessly.
Every delegate struggled to process the revelation that humanity, the species they had quarantined in terror, had died defending their very existence. But the most shocking discovery came from the final human transmission, broadcast moments before Earth's destruction. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice, calm and professional despite the apocalypse surrounding her, delivered a message that would reshape galactic civilization. To any species receiving this transmission, Earth has fallen to hostile machine intelligences from extragalactic space. Our defensive efforts have been unsuccessful, but we have gathered crucial intelligence about enemy capabilities and weaknesses. This information is being transmitted on all frequencies using quantum encrypted protocols. The transmission continued for hours, containing detailed technical specifications for weapon systems, tactical doctrines, and strategic recommendations for fighting an enemy that consumed worlds. Humanity's final act had been to share their accumulated knowledge with the very civilizations that had shunned them.
They gave us everything, whispered Ambassador Extraterrestrial.
Every military secret, every technological advance, every tactical lesson learned through sacrifice. They provided us with the tools we need to survive what's coming. Because the Devourers were still coming. Long-range deep space monitoring stations had detected gravitational anomalies consistent with massive fleet movements beyond the galactic rim. The enemy that had destroyed humanity was approaching inhabited space on a trajectory that would bring them into contact with major civilizations within 50 galactic standard years. Chairman Mordek called for an immediate emergency session of all galactic governments.
For the first time in recorded history, every major species would need to unite against a common threat. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The galaxy's salvation would depend on knowledge provided by the species they had feared most.
As Captain Jacksthor prepared to leave the Sol system, his ship's sensors detected one final anomaly. Hidden within the outer asteroid belt, protected by debris fields and radiation storms, something was still transmitting. The signal was weak but persistent, broadcasting on frequencies that matched human communication protocols. The message was simple but carried implications that would change everything. This is Ark Ship Defiance, carrying surviving Earth populations to designated rally points.
Mission parameters remain active. Humanity endures.
Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the species the galaxy had quarantined in terror was still alive. And they were preparing for the war that was coming to destroy everything. The Galactic Defense Coordination Center buzzed with desperate activity as representatives from 47 species worked frantically to prepare for the approaching Devourer fleet. 15 years had passed since Captain Jacksthor's discovery of humanity's sacrifice, but the enemy's advance had accelerated beyond all predictions. The machine intelligences would arrive within 2 galactic standard years, not the projected 50. Admiral Kexthera of the combined galactic fleet stared at the tactical displays with growing despair. Despite humanity's detailed intelligence and technological gifts, their preparations were failing catastrophically.
The alien ship designs couldn't effectively implement human weapon systems.
Cultural differences made it impossible for different species to coordinate the complex tactical maneuvers humans had recommended. "Ma'am," reported Communications Officer Vixtal, "we've lost contact with the 4th defensive line. All 17 monitoring stations have gone dark." The Devourers had begun their assault on galactic civilizations' outer territories. Scouting forces were probing defenses, systematically eliminating early warning systems and isolated settlements. Everything was proceeding exactly as human strategic projections had predicted.
Status report on refugee evacuation efforts? Admiral Kexthera asked, though she already knew the answer would be grim.
"Minimal progress," replied Logistics Coordinator Pixnaran.
"We've relocated approximately 12% of civilian populations from target systems. Resource limitations and transport capacity shortfalls are preventing larger-scale operations." The mathematics were brutally simple. The galaxy's combined fleet possessed insufficient firepower to defeat the approaching enemy.
Evacuation efforts could save only a fraction of the threatened populations.
Within 5 years, galactic civilization would cease to exist. Unless someone could locate humanity's survivors.
The search efforts had continued throughout the preparation years, but the surviving humans seemed to have vanished completely.
Long-range sensors detected no trace of their Ark ships.
Communication attempts on all known frequencies yielded only silence. Most galactic leaders had concluded that humanity's remnants had perished in deep space, leaving behind only their final gift of tactical knowledge.
Captain Jacksthor disagreed.
His modified exploration vessel Serenity's call had spent years following faint gravitational traces and electromagnetic anomalies that might indicate human activity. His scientific team had developed new detection methods based on analyzing human technological signatures found in the Sol system wreckage.
The breakthrough came when Navigation Officer Kickstall identified a pattern in seemingly random hyperspace distortions near the galactic core. The gravitational signatures were too subtle for most sensors to detect, but they showed characteristics consistent with massive artificial structures hidden in the cosmic background radiation. "Sir," she announced during the morning briefing, "I believe I've found them." Captain Jacksthor studied the sensor data with growing excitement. Hidden within the chaotic gravitational fields surrounding the galaxy's central black holes, something was creating precisely controlled spacetime distortions. The energy requirements suggested engineering projects on an impossible scale. "Take us there," he ordered. Maximum stealth configuration. The journey to the galactic core took weeks, navigating through hazardous regions of space that no sane pilot would attempt to traverse. Radiation storms, gravitational anomalies, and exotic matter fields created a natural barrier that protected whatever lay hidden beyond. As they approached the coordinates, their sensors began detecting artificial structures that defied comprehension. "Captain," whispered Science Officer Mixanda, "we're reading energy signatures consistent with stellar engineering. Something is manipulating matter at the atomic level across entire solar systems." The scope of human construction projects became clear as they penetrated deeper into the hidden region. Massive space habitats orbited artificial stars that provided perfect energy output for supporting billions of inhabitants. Industrial complexes stretched across distances that would span entire sectors of normal space. Most stunning of all, huge fleets of warships unlike anything in galactic databases sat in perfectly organized formations. "Sir," reported Engineer Tekvar, his voice filled with awe, "I'm detecting over 40,000 vessels. Each one appears to be significantly larger than our heavy cruisers. The technological sophistication readings are off any scale our instruments can measure." A transmission reached their ship before Captain Jacksthor could decide how to announce their presence. The voice was unmistakably human, speaking in perfect galactic standard with the calm professionalism that had terrified so many species decades earlier. "Veltheri vessel Serenity's call, this is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Human Defense Fleet. Permission to come aboard granted. Docking Bay 7 is being prepared for your arrival." The docking bay was larger than most galactic space stations. As Captain Jacksthor's crew disembarked, they found themselves surrounded by humans whose calm efficiency and technological mastery radiated the same quiet menace that had inspired the original quarantine. But there was something different now, a sense of purpose that transcended mere survival. Admiral Webb appeared exactly as Captain Jacksthor had expected. Tall, composed, and speaking with the measured tones of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected millions of lives. His uniform bore insignia that indicated rank structures far more complex than anything used by galactic military organizations. "Captain," Admiral Webb said, "we've been monitoring your people's preparation efforts. We appreciate the attempt to implement our tactical recommendations, but your execution has been inadequate. Our species lack the technological capability to construct your weapons systems," Captain Jacksthor explained. "The engineering requirements exceed our industrial capacity." "Understood," Admiral Webb nodded. "That's why we've been building them ourselves." He gestured toward massive displays showing the human fleet's true scale. Thousands of vessels designed specifically to counter devourer tactics filled the screens. Each ship incorporated lessons learned from Earth's final battle, refined through years of engineering advancement that had accelerated beyond anything previously thought possible. "The devourers are 3 days from entering inhabited galactic space," Admiral Webb continued. "Our long-range reconnaissance indicates they're targeting the Chromax system first. 40 billion civilian casualties are projected if current defensive preparations proceed." Captain Jacksthor felt his heart sinking. "The Galactic Council estimates we can evacuate perhaps 5% of that population before the attack begins." "Evacuation won't be necessary," Admiral Webb said quietly. "We're going to destroy them." The statement was delivered with such casual certainty that Captain Jacksthor initially assumed he had misunderstood. "Admiral, with respect, the Devourer fleet numbers in the thousands. Even your impressive forces couldn't possibly." "Captain," Admiral Webb interrupted gently, "you're still thinking in terms of conventional warfare. We're not planning to fight the Devourers. We're going to eliminate them." The distinction became clear when Admiral Webb provided access to human strategic planning systems.
The survivors hadn't spent 15 years hiding and building conventional military forces.
They had developed weapons technologies that transcended every known scientific principle. Nanotechnology that could disassemble enemy vessels at the molecular level. Gravitational manipulation systems capable of creating artificial black holes. Quantum disruption fields that could destabilize matter across entire star systems. "How is this possible?" asked Dr. Lyx Nora after reviewing the technical specifications.
These technologies require scientific knowledge centuries beyond current galactic understanding.
"We had excellent teachers," Admiral Webb replied.
The Devourers provided comprehensive education in advanced physics during our initial encounters. Every weapon they used against Earth was analyzed, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. The revelation explained humanity's 15-year absence.
They hadn't been hiding in defeat.
They had been learning, adapting, and preparing for a war that would determine the fate of all organic life in the galaxy. Their sacrifice of Earth had bought time not just for galactic civilization to prepare, but for humanity itself to evolve beyond its original limitations.
"Admiral," Captain Jacksthor said carefully, "the galaxy owes humanity an enormous debt.
Our governments treated your people as threats when you were actually our greatest protectors."
Admiral Webb's expression softened slightly. "Captain, the galaxy's fear was perfectly reasonable. Humans are dangerous. We approach problems by finding ways to destroy them completely."
That's exactly what the current situation requires. 3 days later, the combined galactic fleet watched in stunned amazement as human vessels emerged from hyperspace throughout the Chromax system. The Devourer Advance Force, consisting of over 2,000 machine intelligences, found themselves surrounded by humanity's most advanced warships. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When the exotic weapon effects cleared, no trace of Devourer forces remained. The space they had occupied was simply empty, as if the enemy ships had never existed at all.
Human vessels began systematic sweeps of the area, ensuring complete elimination of all hostile nanotechnology that might attempt to reconstitute. Admiral Kexthera transmitted frantic communications requests to the human fleet.
When Admiral Webb responded, his calm professionalism contrasted sharply with the galactic military's barely controlled panic. "Admiral Webb, how did you achieve such complete victory so quickly?" she asked.
"We didn't achieve victory, Admiral," he replied. "We performed pest control.
The Devourers are a nanotechnology infestation. We developed appropriate extermination methods." The main Devourer fleet was still approaching, but humanity's demonstration had changed everything.
Across the galaxy, governments that had once quarantined human space were now desperately requesting assistance.
Emergency sessions of the Galactic Council passed unanimous resolutions offering humanity full membership and access to all galactic resources. But Admiral Webb's response to these offers revealed the true scope of how much had changed during humanity's absence.
"The Galactic Council's offers are appreciated but unnecessary," he transmitted to the Emergency Assembly. "Humanity has outgrown the need for membership in galactic civilization. However, we recognize our obligation to protect organic life from existential threats."
Chairman Mordek attempted to negotiate some form of formal alliance. "Admiral, surely we can establish cooperative agreements that benefit all species."
"Cooperation requires equals, Mr. Chairman," Admiral Webb replied. "Humanity has evolved beyond that possibility. We will eliminate the Devourer threat because allowing their success would be unacceptable. Once the task is complete, we'll return to our own affairs."
The final battle occurred near the galactic rim, where the main Devourer fleet encountered humanity's full military might.
Galactic long-range sensors recorded energy discharges that briefly outshone entire star systems. Gravitational waves rippled across space as human weapons manipulated fundamental forces in ways that physics textbooks would need to be rewritten to explain.
When the exotic effects faded, the threat that had terrified galactic civilization simply no longer existed. Humanity had eliminated an extragalactic invasion force numbering in the hundreds of thousands with clinical efficiency that suggested the enemy had never posed any real challenge.
Captain Jacksthor found himself aboard Admiral Webb's flagship as humanity's survivors prepared to depart for regions unknown.
The man who had saved galactic civilization showed no interest in ruling it or even remaining near it.
Where will humanity go now? Captain Jacksthor asked. Admiral Webb studied star charts showing regions beyond the galactic rim.
There are other galaxies, Captain.
Other threats that organic life will eventually face. We intend to be ready. Will we ever see you again?
When you need us, Admiral Webb said simply. Humanity has accepted the role of guardian.
That responsibility doesn't end with the elimination of one threat.
As human vessels departed for the intergalactic void, the galaxy they left behind was forever changed. The species that had once been quarantined in terror had become the ultimate protector of all organic life.
And, somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, humanity continued its endless vigil against threats that lesser civilizations couldn't even imagine. The galaxy was safe. But, it would never be the same.